So what is up, everybody, and I'm here to finally bring you another 10 things I've learned from last week, even though this is going to be a 15 thing episode. I know it's been a couple of weeks, but honestly it's kind of been hard for me to learn 10 or more things in 1 week's tops. So I'm going to end up I am going to change the name of the series to 10 things I've learned. And I'm probably going to incorporate 10 things that I've learned from my past, or it's going to be 10 things I've learned from my past with some new knowledge that I've gained recently. So anyway, put that aside. The first thing I want to talk about is a liquid light show. And well, actually just watch this for a moment. So a liquid light show, or a psychedelic light show, is a form of light art that surfaced in the early 1960s as a accompaniment to electronic music and avant-garde theater performances. They were later adapted for performances of rock or psychedelic music, and to my theory, I believe that these are actually kind of related to laser light shows. And I've known what a laser light show is, but I've never seen what a liquid light show was until I just randomly found this clip on YouTube. Second thing I want to talk about is microbiomes. Some people don't know what they are, some people do. Microbiomes are environments for different kinds of microbes, or quote-unquote microorganisms. They exist on your skin, in your stomach, on your tongue, in your mouth, on your hair, etc. Actually, every microbiome on a person starts out differently when childbirth happens because of when they slide out of the womb. And what I mean by this is when a child slides out of the womb, all of the bacteria and other microorganisms get, passed on to the child's skin and such from the mother. I forgot to mention that microbiomes don't just live on humans and inside of humans. They also live on pets and bodies of water like oceans, rivers, ponds. They exist in swamps and forests and even on plants. So pretty much microbiomes are anywhere in the world and everywhere you look. That's that. The third thing is something that I actually love a lot, and it's called the Troxler effect. Now, I don't know if you've heard of this, but I've never heard of this until I heard of it. And the Troxler effect is a phenomenon discovered a long time ago in 1804 by a physician and philosopher named Ignaz Troxler. It is the effect that underlies many of the optical illusions you can find on the internet. It is an optical illusion affecting visual perception. When one fixates on a particular point of even a short period of time, an unchanging stimulus away from the fixation point will fade away and disappear. Recent research suggests that at least some portion of the perceptual phenomena associated with Troxler fading occurs in the brain. And an example of this is the old Bloody Mary games that they would do when they would tell you to go into the bathroom and look into a mirror and say Bloody Mary. That is an exact example of this, and you've actually been known to see people's auras in the mirror while you look in it. Now, I don't know if this is true, as I've never tried it and I never will try it, but that's just something to keep in mind. So with Bloody Mary, another example of the Troxler effect is actually when you stare at a tree, right? And eventually, if you stare at it long enough, the things in your peripheral vision will kind of start to blur out and fade away. And that's because your brain is focusing on the details of that one specific tree you're looking at. A similar example of this is when you're sitting in your room at night, maybe laying on your bed, whatever. It's kind of pitch black, dark in your room. But sometimes you can kind of see the outline of things, or you can see some things, they're just not, not too dark to where you can't see them. So an example, you look at that, and if you look at it long enough, the same thing in the previous scenario, and basically your whole vision will start to turn black because your eyes are focusing on something that's already dark mixed in with a darker peripheral vision background type of thing. So like I said, your vision turns pretty much pitch black until you look away. The third thing is about the swastika. Now, the swastika was actually a symbol of well-being, and it is also an ancient religious icon used in the Indian subcontinent, East Asia, and Southeast Asia, where it has been a symbol of spiritual principles and values. In the Western world, it was historically a symbol of auspiciousness and good luck, until early Europe in World War I and Nazi Germany took it into their own hands to represent their empire and their Aryan brotherhood. The name swastika comes from the Sanskrit and denotes a conducive to well-being or auspicious. The clockwise swastika is a sacred and auspicious symbol in Buddhism, Hinduism, and Jainism. In Hinduism, the clockwise symbol is called the swastika, symbolizing sarva, in parentheses, sun, and prosperity, while the counterclockwise symbol is called savastika, symbolizing night or tantric aspects of Kali. In Jainism, a swastika is the symbol for Suparshivanta, the seventh of the 24 Tirthankaras, which are spiritual teachers and saviors, while in Buddhism it symbolizes the auspicious footprints of the Buddha. These symbols have been found in the archaeological remains of the Indus Valley civilization in Mesopotamia, as well as early Byzantine and Christian artwork. Now, fourth, these are actually very interesting creatures. I don't know if you've ever heard of them, but they're called pyrosomes. Pyrosomes are free-floating colonial tunicates that live usually in the upper layers of the open ocean and warm seas. Although some may be found at greater depths, pyrosomes are cylindrical or cone-shaped colonies made up of hundreds to thousands of individuals known as zooids. Colonies range in size from less than 1 centimeter to several meters in length. They are commonly called sea pickles. Yes, sea pickles. They are bioluminescent and glow blue and green, also are planktonic. Now, if you personally know me, you know that I love talking about sleeping and dreams. So, this one has to deal with a dream cheese. So, Stilton cheese is a specific English cheese that is more commonly made as blue cheese that in a 2005 survey carried out by the British Cheese Board reported that Stilton cheese seemed to cause unusual dreams when eaten before sleep, with 75% of men and 85% of women experiencing odd and vivid dreams after eating a 20-gram serving of the cheese half an hour prior to sleeping. Speaking of cheese, there is a whole different environment of over 2,000 species of bacteria found in belly buttons, which over 1,000 of them were totally new to science. There are actually, on average, 67 species in a person's belly button. And as part of a collaborative project named Self-Made, biologist Christina Akapakis and odor artist Sizzle Tolas teamed up to make 11 cheeses from the bacteria found in armpits, mouths, toes, and guess what? You know it, belly buttons. This next fact is there are actually 4 stages of REM sleep, or rapid eye movement. The first stage occurs after you have decided to sleep and your eyes are closed. During this stage, which typically lasts between 1 and 10 minutes, you are lightly asleep and you can quickly return to being fully awake. The second stage, which usually lasts about 20 minutes, is characterized by slowing heart rate and a decrease in body temperature. Your body reduces its activity to prepare you to go into deep sleep. And a fun fact is that this stage is where you are normally in for the longest amount of time while you're sleeping. Stage 3. This stage typically starts 35 to 45 minutes after falling asleep. Electroencephalograms show our brainwaves slow down and become larger. At this point, you sleep through most potential sleep disturbances, noise and movements is an example, without showing any reaction. If you actually wake up during NREM sleep, there's a high probability you are going to feel disoriented for the first few minutes. The fourth stage. This is the final stage of standard sleep cycle. The first rapid eye movement sleep stage lasts around 10 minutes and usually happens after being asleep at least 90 minutes. And that's just kind of, on average. This is kind of why, because you don't have dreams, I believe, till the fourth stage. So this is why if you have great dreams, they don't last long, because you've already been through most of your sleep cycle. Now, speaking of sleep, I want to talk about something that keeps you asleep. So hypocretin has 2 names, hypocretin and orexin. Orexin was discovered in 1998 almost simultaneously by 2 independent groups of rat brain researchers. One group named it orexin from orexis, meaning appetite in Greek. The other group named it hypocretin because it is produced in the hypothalamus and bears a weak resemblance to secretin, another peptide. The use of both terms is now a practical necessity, as hypocretin is used to refer to the genetic products and orexin is used to refer to the protein products. Now, to explain what this peptide is, orexin, also called hypocretin, is a neuropeptide that regulates arousal, wakefulness, and appetite. The most common form of narcolepsy, in which the sufferer briefly loses muscle tone, aka paralyzed muscles during sleep, aka cataplexy, is caused by lack of orexin in the brain due to destruction of the cells that produce it. Narcolepsy with cataplexy is caused by the loss of a chemical in the brain called hypocretin. Hypocretin acts as an alerting system in the brain, keeping us awake and regularly regulating sleep-wake cycles. In narcolepsy, the cluster of cells produce hypocretin, located in the region of the hypothalamus, is damaged or completely destroyed. Without hypocretin, the person has trouble staying awake and also experiences disruptions in the normal sleep-wake cycles. And since we spend on average 20 years of our lives dreaming, scientists consider dreaming to be an alternate universe. So the next fact I want to talk about is the 5 stages of grief by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. The 5 stages are denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance, and they're all part of the framework that makes up our learning to live with one we lost. The first stage, denial, helps us survive the loss. In this stage, the world becomes meaningless and overwhelming. Life makes no sense. We are in a state of shock and denial. We go numb. We wonder how we can go on if we can't go on. Why should we go on? Why try to find a way to simply get through each day? Denial and shock help us cope and make survival possible. Denial helps us pace our feelings of grief. Anger is the second stage. The more anger you feel, the more it will begin to dissipate and the more you will heal. Anger is actually a strength, and it can be an anchor, giving temporary structure to nothingness of loss. At first, grief looks like being lost at sea, no connection, no to anything. Then you get angry at someone, maybe a person who didn't attend a funeral, maybe a person who isn't around, maybe a person who is different now that your loved one has died. Suddenly you have a structure. The anger becomes a bridge over the open sea, a connection from you to them. It is something you hold on to, and a connection made from the strength of anger feels better than nothing we usually know, more than suppressing anger than feeling it. The anger is just another indication of the intensity of your love. Bargaining is actually the third stage, and you have to think about what happens after a loss. After you lose a person you love, you think about what you can do to get them back, what you can do to feel better about it. If you can somehow go back in time and fix the situation, or if you can start helping people from now on to prevent anything happening to them. If anything, bargaining is just mainly a truce of yourself within something else that makes you feel better about the situation. The fourth stage is depression, and in this stage, this is where grief enters our lives in a deeper level, deeper than we ever imagined. This depression stage feels as though it will last forever. It's important to understand that this depression is not a sign of mental illness, but just a strong emotion. It is the appropriate response to a great loss. We withdraw from life, left in a fog of intense sadness. To not experience depression after a loved one dies would be unusual. When a loss fully settles in your soul, the realization that your loved one didn't get better this time and is not coming back is understandably depressing. If grief is a process of healing, then depression is one of the many necessary steps along the way. And lastly, the fifth stage is acceptance. This stage is about accepting the reality that our loved one is physically gone and recognizing that this new reality is a permanent reality. We will never like this reality or make it okay, but eventually we accept this. We learn to live with it, and it is the new norm with what we must learn to live. We must try to live in our world where our loved one is missing. In resisting to this new norm, at first many people want to maintain life as it is before a loved one died. So I want to talk about blood now. Some people like it, some people don't. Dogs have actually 12 different blood types, and cats only have 3, and humans as well have 4. The major blood types a human has are A, B, AB, and O, as AB is the universal recipient for blood and O is the universal donor. The reason you can't mix certain blood types together is because the main blood, the blood already in the body, will attack the newer blood that's, being put into the body. So now I want to talk about some really wacky shit, man. Some really wacky shit. Philosophical presentism is the view that neither the future nor the past exist. In some versions of presentism, this view is extended to timeless objects or ideas, such as numbers. According to presentism, events and entities that are wholly past or wholly future do not exist at all. St. Augustine proposed that the present is analogous to a knife edge placed exactly between the perceived past and the imaginary future and does not include the concept of time. This should be self-evident because if the present is extended, it must have separate parts, but these must be simultaneous if they are truly a part of the present. According to early philosophers, time cannot be simultaneously past and present and hence not extended. Contrary to St. Augustine, some philosophers propose that conscious experience is extended in time. For instance, William James said that time is the short duration of which we are immediately and incessantly sensible. Other early presentist philosophers include the Indian Buddhist tradition. Fyodor Shlobotsky, a leading scholar of the modern era on Buddhist philosophy, has written extensively on Buddhist presentism. Everything past is unreal. Everything future is unreal. Everything imagined, absent, mental is unreal. Ultimately, real is the only present moment of physical efficiency. All in quotations. Now, eternalism is basically the opposite of presentism. Eternalism is a philosophical approach to the ontological nature of time, which takes the view that all points in time are equally real, as opposed to the presentist idea that only the present is real, and the growing block universe theory of time, which past and present are real, while the future is not. Eternalism is the view that each space-time moment exists and of itself. Modern advocates often take inspiration from the way time is modeled as a dimension and the theory of relativity, giving time a similar ontology to that of space. This would mean that time is just another dimension, that future events are already there, and that there is no objective flow of time. It is sometimes referred to as the block time or block universe theory due to its description of space-time as the unchanging four-dimensional block, as opposed to the view of the world as a three-dimensional space modulated by the passage of time. Now, I believe this theory actually goes, it kind of sides with the multi-parallel universe theory. Now this one, I like this one a lot, and it's called phenomenalism. Everyone is interested in what happens to things when you aren't looking at them. Kind of like how I feel about mirrors and the Troxler effect. Scientists have carefully studied this problem, and some of them came to a simple conclusion: they disappear. Well, not quite like this. Phenomenalist philosophers believe that objects only exist as a phenomenon of consciousness. So your laptop is only here while you are aware of it and believe in its existence. But when you turn away from it, it ceases to exist until you or someone else interacts with it. There is no existence without perception. This is the root of phenomenalism. This actually makes me think about the idea of fear as well, how you create your own fear. But anyway, guys, I hope you guys like this video, as I'm trying to get back into this series more. I know the ending is just of me talking a lot, you know, like they usually are. It sounds about right. But I hope you guys are having a good day. I have actually a new idea that I want to put on my channel, so stay tuned for that. Subscribe, and I am out.